My first question is, where were you born? Whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Russia, and it's called Kiev, really in a little town called Mankivka, which is not important. There were only 80 Jewish families there, and that's where I was born.
Whereabouts in Russia are we?
That's really not important. It just, the capital city was Kiev.
Okay.
And more than that, I really don't know.
And when did you arrive in Ottawa?
In the summer of 1921.
And do you have any memories from leaving Russia that are stronger than others?
I sure do. If I can tell you quickly, we had to pass a canal to get over to the other side to, I keep forgetting the names of places. And on the other side there were soldiers with guns who wouldn't allow us to cross over. So one very late, cold night, my parents, and we were 4 children at the time, my brother, who was really just about 2 years old, started out to cross because it was so cold that the canal was well frozen so we could get over. And when we got to the other side, the soldiers heard us, and they started shooting with guns, but they were far away enough that some person, a Jewish person, approached us and said, "You are with God, come with us," and took us to a home. We had to sleep on the floor, it didn't matter, but we were safe. That's one of the memories. And another memory is, at another city, we were maybe 4 or 6 families in one room with curtains to divide us. We had no money, no means. My father would go out to a market and buy something and go to another market and try and sell it, so we had something to eat that day.
Was this still in Europe?
Oh yes, it was in Europe before we got to Canada.
And when you finally came to Canada, did you end up going on a boat to cross the ocean?
Yeah, we were on a boat, and it was called the Canada, I think. Too long ago. This is 80 years ago, so it's a bit forgetful. Because when I came to Canada, I was 9 years old, and today I'm 89.
Why did you leave Russia? What was the main reason
because
behind it?
Because the Bolsheviks were chasing us.
Okay.
To go back before we had to cross this canal that I call it. It's called the Garanins. The Bolsheviks attacked all the Jewish homes wanting to kill people. My grandfather had a very strong home with bars on the windows. In any case, when they knocked and they broke the windows and they got in, they forced everybody outdoors. There were 11 people lined up, and they tried to kill them with one, not a gun, but they shoot through. Anyway, they tried to save on their ammunition. So they killed 3. One of them was an aunt of mine and her fiancé. They were to be married, and a friend who lived close by. The rest of the family, including my parents, ran to the river because they sent dogs to chase, the scent, to chase them to get them. And they stayed there till morning, came back to find the 3 who had died. And we, the children, were told, if they come to you, pretend you're asleep and don't respond to whatever they do. And it did happen. They touched my pillow, somebody touched my pillow and talked to me, but we were advised what to do. I cannot tell you how young I was, but I had to be very young, because it took so many years to come to Canada.
Wow.
So we did live through that. Little wonder that we remember and understand the Holocaust and understand what's going on in Israel.
And why did your parents choose Ottawa of all places in the world?
Oh, there's a very good reason for it. My father had a sister here.
Okay.
Her name was Mrs. Black.
Okay.
And she went to a friend and asked if he could lend her $300 because she had a family of 6 to bring here. And he wanted to know why, but he finally gave her the money. And I'm mentioning that it took only, at that time, when money was valuable, $300 to bring 6 people to Canada. And that's how we got here. And so when we came, safely, thank God, it took us a long time, but I think half the city was at my aunt and uncle's home because, people were saved and Jewish people do stay together.
Yes.
So.
And what were your parents' names?
My father was called Jack, my mother Leah. And I have to tell you about my dad, his name Jack Rivers, so it's J.R. At the time in Ottawa there was a J.R. Booths who was very, very popular and very wealthy. So because my dad's name was J.R., they were in the fruit business. So when they had an auction, they would call out, J.R. Booth, how about you? Calling my dad. It was I'm just commenting on that. That his name was Jack Rivers. No, it was Bill Rivers.
And what were your siblings' names?
My sisters and brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the oldest one was Eleanor, who ended up living in New York and Florida.
Okay.
She's passed away. And I'm next in line, named Thelma. And there's no point telling you my husband at this point.
Oh, we can get on to that
Okay.
after.
And my sister Eileen is next.
Okay.
Did you want to record that?
Yeah.
Eileen, and then Albert.
And Albert.
Albert Rivers. And 2 were born in Canada. One is Irving Rivers, my brother.
Did he
He's
happen
well
to?
known.
Yeah, he owns a place on the market.
Exactly, that was my brother,
Oh,
who
wow.
died 4 years ago.
I think I might know his wife. I might have done some landscaping work for her.
Really?
Does she live in Canada?
Yeah.
On
you're
Peregrine?
You're talking about Ellen, my niece.
Is that your niece? Yeah, on Peregrine.
Ellen Oster.
Actually,
She's moved now. She's living somewhere else. And I'm very, very close with her. It's almost like she's my child. But the siblings, so Irving was born in Ottawa, and so was my sister Goldie,
okay.
Goldie. Those are my siblings. 4 came from Russia and 2 were born in Canada.
And what was your first memory of coming to Ottawa? What's your fondest memory as a child once you came here?
Well, this is a little bit silly because, I respond to a question at the moment. When we went to bed that night with all the people in the house, we finally fell asleep, and my sister and I, who slept together, were awakened as if somebody was shooting at us because we heard the streetcars on the rail
Oh, wow.
and the noise, because we lived in fear that this was it. And other than that, we lived with this aunt who brought us here. We lived with her for a whole year. So she had 4 children, and they tried very hard to teach us to speak English. And the other thing is, we arrived in 1921, and York Street School was built. It was built that year. So when they opened the doors to the school, we were some of the first who attended York Street School.
Okay.
So it's a first there. And as it happens, I went to High School of Commerce, and that too, I had to go to Lister while they were building High School of Commerce.
Okay.
So I'm just commenting about the time. So yeah, the ideas that pop in my mind at the moment.
You just said that you heard streetcars, and that kind of provoked some fear in you.
Oh, definitely.
When could you say that maybe the fear was finally over once you realized, okay, I'm in Canada, this is a safer climate, or is this fear something you've never been able to totally pass aside?
Not a fear of the sound of the noise, but the fear of being persecuted has lasted forever. Like when I read this morning about what's happening in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
It's fear that possesses me as if it happened then.
Why do you think this fear has always seemed to plague the Jewish people? Even throughout history, there's always been something they've had to deal with. This issue of fear, whether it was even in Egypt or during the Holocaust, there's always been this issue of fear. And
You mean fear or possessing or controlling? Is that what you mean?
I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems no matter where you've been throughout the world, whether it was in Russia or Israel or in Europe, in Germany, a lot of Jewish communities have been confronted with fear and persecution.
Yeah. Well, the answer I can only give you is that the world is made up of, today we know it's terrorists, but also of people who are greedy and selfish. And that's what it's all about. That's what wars are about. When you think that wars are held because of religion, you know, I found myself saying in the past on another tape that if I meet someone and we both feel good about each other, the minute that person discovers that I'm Jewish, there's immediately a change of, she's Jewish. So, and why would they feel that way? They want to be superior, they want to possess everything. Does that make us a lesser individual with the same love and fear and all the attributes that we're born with? So to me, I often realize that it's strictly jealousy and control. People want to control other people.
So it goes beyond the in the name of religion. You think it's more of an individual thing
because
almost?
of religion. They have to blame it on something.
Do you think they just pick religion just because it's convenient, or do you think it's actually, for example, in Israel right now, do you think this is truly about religion? What's going on, or does it go beyond that?
It's not religion. It's greediness.
Greediness.
They want to drive the Jews out into the ocean, as they keep on claiming. Why? I mean, just so you can own Israel, or Palestine. So it's got to be that. Because if religion was into it, and they'd concentrate what religion's about, it's only love and caring and that, then it would be the very opposite, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think all religions try to encompass some message of
love
and care. Yeah.
That's exactly it, and this is the very opposite.
Good point. In terms of your parents, what was some of your strongest memories of them, like while you're in Ottawa?
Well, the two of them, my dad started with a wagon without a horse. And he'd buy some fruit and go from door to door to try and sell it.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, the thing was he couldn't speak English at all. Just to give you a little example, my older sister, when there's a sidewalk on the market where you have to pay for to call it your own spot. And she was there to help him sell the peaches that he was selling in a basket. And a customer said, "I'll bet they're rotten at the bottom." And he said, yes, lady. And my sister said, "Dad, what she's saying is," and just give an example of what they had to struggle through. No religion, and no money.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this wagon, and where we lived, he had to come up a hill to get to the market. In time, much later, but he died of a heart attack, because there's such a thing as exercise, but there's a limit to everything, right?
Yes.
So started out that way, and then they finally were able to rent a store on the market, and we lived above the store, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm going back to the 30s, 20s and 30s, so it all sounds like a fairy tale. It doesn't make sense to people today, but that's what it was. And so my dad and my mother worked very, very hard. My dad was very kind. It didn't matter who came into the store to buy on credit. he would say, the poor guy, you got to give him a hand. It got to a point that my mother said, we don't have a money tree at the back, so we just cannot keep this up.
Yeah.
They don't pay, so but this is what in a way I'm trying to tell you, that the people of that generation were caring and loving and helping everybody, but it's not that way today, and it's just very sad. I accept the changes, and I feel that I've gone along with the changes in many ways. This business, there's so much about private information on television.
Mm-hmm.
That it's disgusting. But I still recognize that's the world today. I don't like it, but I have to go along with it. But to compare the past to the present.
What do you think's accountable for that change? Like, I see what you mean. Like my grandparents, for example, and their friends. There's just something about older people that they just seem more trusting and friendly and hospitable and more kind-hearted, and that's not something that's really prevalent in today's society with our people.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So, did you want to ask a question?
One question I wanted to ask is, what was the native tongue of your parents? Did they speak Russian, your parents?
Well, I too spoke Russian fluently.
Okay.
And I like to make a joke about it. I don't know how well I speak English, but I spoke it Russian just as I do English today. I thought in Russian and Yiddish. But I'm disappointed that I, who spoke so well, have lost it.
Because you're used to speaking English now?
Yeah, because, if you don't use it, it's true. You don't use it, you do lose it. I've discovered that. So our language was, my parents spoke Yiddish, and we spoke English.
Okay.
Sad to say, because Jewish, Yiddish, and Hebrew now is important to to each generation their own. And where we're at fault, my generation, we spoke English to our children, and they know very little in Yiddish.
So you kind of wish you had spoken more Yiddish?
To them.
Which is a mix of Hebrew and German?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what Yiddish is?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like I can have a conversation with a German person. It's so close.
Oh, wow.
So that was our language.
So where did you learn to speak English? Was it just in school?
School,
Lisgar, where you
and
went?
Yeah, but also with these relatives, our cousins that we lived with for a year, which was a good start.
And who was that? Your father's aunt?
That was my father's sister.
Father's sister, sorry. Okay. So what was happening while you're growing up in Ottawa? How about in your 20s and 30s? What was
happening?
What was
then
going on?
What was happening at that time was, it's very important to Jewish people to have a good education as well as something in the arts. So we were so busy. We'd go to school in the morning. After school, we had to go to a piano lesson. I took piano and violin. I have to tell you, I didn't accomplish anything in either case because there was no time to practice. Get back to my lesson without having opened the books. There was that. And from there, we had the responsibility to come back to the store, to be there until closing time. Not every night, but many nights, we'd have to bring stuff home, like celery or parsley, that we had to wash and retie or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that time too, we couldn't afford help, so we had to do our homework and we had to clean up. So like Thursday night at 2 in the morning, the girls were still washing the floors to keep clean. My mother took over at the store as if she had no other responsibilities, which are not true, because she still had to, and being kosher wasn't easy, to have to order the meat and to cook and
Cook
to
for the
serve
family.
and do the wash and all that stuff. So, but the thing I have to tell you, Andrew, is this, that people in future years said, you've had it hard, you've had a hard life. And I'd have to stop and think, what kind of hard life? that was life at that time, and it was not hard. We were all in the same boat, the same problems. So
You just accepted it.
yeah,
This is
and
what I
that's the way
had to
life
do.
is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so there was time to enjoyment and to appreciate. And I think that's such a big factor in the whole world. If you can see the beauty around you and, the wonderful, how people are wonderful, it would be such a wonderful world, but it's not.
What, the house, you said you grew up on top of the store.
Mm.
What was the house like?
That was on the market, 12 and a half Byward Market. It's
Is that where Irving Rivers is now, the
east-
same vicinity?
No, yeah, it's the same vicinity, but it's the middle of the next block toward
Okay.
Clarence, between
Okay.
Rock and Clarence. And so we lived above there, and we had to sleep, like 4 in a room.
Wow.
There was just like one bedroom and a little room where the children had to sleep. And it's like people who have everything are camping, but to us it was a way of life. The thing is, there were people who were better off financially than we were, but the average who had come to this country couldn't bring any valuable things.
Mhm.
Were mostly that way. And, even when I put myself back to that time, it wasn't hard. It was life. We were so happy to be in a free country that nothing else mattered. Nothing was a hardship.
In terms of your family, it sounds like you guys were really, really close from what you've been through and even your living conditions and with the family business. When did you leave your family in terms of leaving the house? And,
You mean getting married?
Getting married, yeah,
Oh,
getting married.
Well, that was in 1937
1937.
that I married.
How did you
With
meet?
the man of my dreams. I was proposed to twice before, but
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But at that time, what are you talking about? I didn't want to leave home. I was happy and comfortable. But I have to tell you a cute little story. Somewhere you have to insert a little humor. That is, Nat, Nathan Steinman is the man I married.
The man of your dreams?
Yeah, but not at the time. When we were at York Street School in the early years and I was taking violin lessons, I was in a hurry one time. I had to come through the boys' entrance. So there were a group of boys standing there, and I told you before that I was very shy and whatever word goes with it. And so I tried to walk in the door. So he grabbed my violin, and I said, "Give it back to me. I'm late for my lesson." He said, "I'm not giving it back to you until you give me a kiss." Young boys stuff that. So what do you think I did? I started crying. "Give me back my violin. I gotta get it back." And then I married the guy. That's why I'm telling you the story.
That's kind of funny.
Much
Everything
later.
seems to work together.
Yeah.
So you married him in 1937.
Right.
When was this encounter, sorry? At York School when he took the violin?
Oh, but that was, gee whiz, could have been 19, I don't know. And then long before.
Long before you
long
knew you were going to marry this guy.
Oh, long before. It could have been maybe 3-4 years after I was at school.
So you married in 1937.
Mhm.
How many children?
3 daughters.
3 daughters?
Mm-hmm.
And what were your daughters' names?
Elaine is the oldest. She lives in Toronto.
After named after one of your sisters?
Yeah, Elaine. How come you're asking? No?
Oh, Eileen.
Yeah, Eileen. Did you spell Eileen properly? E-I...
L-E-E-N.
Right, yeah.
Thought so.
And she's Elaine.
So
Elaine's
Elaine.
my daughter.
Sorry,
That's
I thought it was
okay.
Eileen.
No,
I mean,
that's okay.
and so one daughter was Elaine. That's the oldest.
Yeah. Do you want to know anything about her?
I'll get the
Okay,
name of the
later.
children and then I'll ask you.
Yeah, and the
about
second one is Gail,
Gail.
G-A-I-L,
That's nice.
and the youngest one's Adele,
Adele.
A-D-E-L-E.
Those are nice names.
Mm-hmm.
So when was Elaine born? Your oldest.
Elaine was born in 1939, just missed 1940.
So right when
She was born in December 13, 1939.
right around the Second World War.
Yep, just when it started.
And when was Gail born?
Gail was born 1943. Yeah, March 21st. Putting dates down.
March 21st.
1943. And Adele, June 11.
June 11th.
Adele, June 11th, in 1943.
So as a parent raising your children, how did you communicate to them what it was like being a Jewish person and living in the Jewish community and the behavior as a Jew, lifestyle as a Jew? How did you raise them in
Raised
that
them
sense?
much as my parents raised me, and they started resenting it because I had to work on the Sabbath to help my husband in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
But I insisted. I told them they had to go to synagogue. So they complained that they were the only girls that were forced to go to synagogue because it's important for men, not for women, to be as religious. But they continued that way. And as far as bringing them up like Jewish, I feel very good about that. If they wanted to do certain things I didn't approve, I really never fought with it. And I'm going to give you a fast example. When they did get married and had their own children, and they sent them to a school that I would not have chosen, it wasn't as orthodox enough, I honestly felt it's not my place. This is their life, and they have to do it. About that kind of thing, and about taking care of my mother, I think it's the only thing that I feel good about is that I did everything I could for them to show my love and caring the best that I could. There was much I could have learned at the time, but
it was a
they
learning
didn't teach us.
experience.
Yeah, it was a learning experience, and they had to suffer if I didn't do the right thing. But to feel self-conscious about it, I really feel more important about my mother. I was the one of 6 children who really took her into my home for the last 5 years and gave her the love and affection and attention that she did more than deserved. And I feel good about it because I did not neglect, because others do.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to sound like a martyr or an angel or something. Honest, truly, I don't mean to. I'm just giving you my inner thoughts and feelings.
That's what's making this a good interview. Do your daughters, do they still live in Ottawa today?
One of Elaine, the oldest, lives in Toronto.
Okay.
And the other 2 live in Ottawa.
Okay. And you still see them pretty often?
In touch all the time. Don't see them as often because I insist on being independent and not needing help and doing the best I can without their help. But there's no such thing when we're not in touch. Like twice today that I'm in touch with my daughter.
And obviously, I guess you celebrated all their bat mitzvahs.
Oh, bat. In
Bat.
girls, it's bat mitzvahs.
Bar for men, bat for women.
Right, good for you. Not only that, with birthdays, make a big fuss about each birthday and holidays. And when they were married, to have them here for the Passover and for the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. It's like all families. We didn't have to be Jewish to be that way. It was just caring to this day. Sometimes, I have to tell you this, Andra, that I believe we can overdo things in a good way as well as otherwise. Because I truly feel if you love too much, what would the expression be? It's overwhelming for the person. You don't give them a chance to be truly themselves because you want to do things for that person to a point.
You're overconsumed and
Yeah.
loving them that they don't have a chance to kind of respond.
Right. It's like being possessive.
Okay.
It satisfies me.
Yeah.
So there's where the mistake is.
Yeah.
That I'm inclined to be that way. So I'm trying very hard as I go through my being a widow not to. It's very important to me. My dad used to use an expression, live and let live. And without thinking about it, this is like a philosophy of mine. I want to live and enjoy life, but let them live too.
Wow.
You know how that happened? Just tell you how wonderful my dad was. The fruit people who had to buy blueberries, they were picked during the night. So they had to come out like at 1 or 2 in the morning. And all the merchants who had on Byward Market, every store had a fruit store. And there were nearly everyone, I think all of them were Jewish, who were newcomers to the country. So they were all out at that hour to get their blueberries. And they'd come in 11-quart baskets, very, very big. So they would all jump on and say, I want,
Yeah.
because they did. And I remember standing by with my father one time when he used the expression, man, live but let live. I'll tell you why. Because they were even bargaining on the price. Not only did I want, but they'd say, and I'll give you. If they said $12, I'll give you 10. That kind of thing. So to tell you the kind of person my father was, and it's not because he said it, but I find myself feeling and behaving exactly the way he expressed himself right now. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. So, do you think you got this from your father, from his example, or is this something that you were born?
This
Okay.
is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But it clarified in my mind why I feel the way he does, and only much later.
And do you feel that your daughters may be born with this as well? This. I'll take that as a no, I guess. Well, that's fine.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I want this. I should ask you to close it because I'm going to say something.
That's fine. I'm going to just pause it for a
Can you
second.
do that?
Yeah, that's fine. How many grandchildren?
I have 6 grandchildren.
6
5 are
grandchildren.
girls. Only 1 is a boy.
5 girls, 1 boy.
And that boy,
Poor guy.
And that boy tells me he's my favorite grandson.
How old are they? Sorry?
The oldest one is 39. Isn't that something?
Wow, that's impossible.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought you were
it's-
39.
Yeah, I'm just that much older. And the next one is, what is he, 36? Well, it really doesn't matter, but it's from 39 down to 24.
Oh,
That
wow.
would be better instead of...
Do you remember the first time you told them about your experience in Russia and how you had to run from the Bolsheviks and come to Canada? Is that...
If I've told them that? Not really, because part of what I was telling you is that they have their lives to live and they're busy and I don't oppose. I have wanted, that's why I had my life taped previously. I don't even know why, but I have wanted to talk and tell them things. Of the 6, I have one granddaughter who likes to come up and ask me questions like you're doing today, and there's no stopping me. I have so much that I want to tell her, but it doesn't happen with the grandchildren. And the answer, I can very well understand it, but I'm sad about it because they have their school and their interests in life, and there's just no time for that.
Yeah.
It's not because they're bad or mean.
But they are aware of their roots, so...
Yeah, they must be, and by now they've got the tapes that I touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you it's so long ago that I don't remember if I spoke about it.
So you said your spouse's name was Nathan Steinman, and what was his occupation?
The only thing we did, he can't call it an occupation, we ended up, my father was called by the landlord of a store next to my dad's store and asked him to come on a Sunday to his home. He wanted to talk to him.
Okay.
And fortunately, I owe my thanks to that old gentleman for the rest of my life, because what he said to my father was, I have an empty store, and I understand that your daughter is dating someone who cannot get a job. And he could not get a job, even though he was well liked. There was an opportunity for him to have it with National Grocers, and the person who told him afterwards was a good friend of the family. We have a lot of good friends. They don't have to be Jewish to be good friends. And he said, the reason you didn't get the job is because of your nose. And it's not that he had a long nose, but Jewish people were considered with long noses. Did you know that? You're too young to have known that. So what he
Because of
meant
his
was because
nose.
you're Jewish. Not because he had a long nose, because he was Jewish.
And
But he said it that way, because of your nose. So he couldn't get a job. And this Mr. Friedman, who's the owner, he owned practically the whole market buildings, had called my father, and he said, I understand, as I said, we have a daughter who's dating, and her boyfriend cannot get a job. Now, if you're interested in signing a lease for that empty store for the children, you can have it. And that's why I said to you, I owe my life to this man. So Nat, at the time, and we dated for 4 years. We couldn't get married because he didn't have a job. So we each lived with our families. So his reaction was, what do I know about groceries? Because to be a grocery store? And I was so ambitious and I was so anxious, because he had planned to go to Chicago, where 2 of his family had gone to look for work and live there. So I said, Matt, we'll learn. Anyway, I got him to agree, and my dad signed the lease, and we were in that store for 38 years.
wow.
You cannot call it a profession, but this is what Nat felt he could do and was good at. There were opportunities for us to go into a linen store and that, and really it was too much to learn
Yeah.
at that point. Anyway, so that was, you can call it a profession, but we ended up being grocery people in a small store in the market just next door presently to where the Point Fish is.
Okay. Know where that is. And did your daughters help out in the store?
Yes, they did. They knew that after synagogue on Saturday, they had to come to the store and work, and they got paid because we wanted them to feel that they were earning.
Yeah. Kind of teaching them to
Yeah,
earn their keep as well.
exactly.
Wow.
So that's how they helped, because other than that, there was school. And the 3 of them, we were so pleased that we were able to get them through university. They achieved their BAs at the time was important.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we were very, very proud, because like I told you, education is very important. One of the questions you asked, why the Jewish people were considered clannish, that we stick together. If we could not be accepted on jobs, you know that even Ogilvy's was one of the biggest stores in town. If you applied, everything was fine until they discovered that you were Jewish, and they'll let you know, and they did not accept anyone. To think in universities, Jewish people were limited. Do you know that in hotels, they had a sign up, no dogs or Jews allowed? Okay. It's giving you
that was in Canada. They had signs like these up.
To tell you why. What nationality wouldn't be forced to be together? And as a result, the Jews felt that education, being independent, was the only way to go. That's why today it has been and continues that there are so many Jewish doctors and lawyers and psychiatrists and whatever, professional people. And that is the answer to why we are the way we are. But we are a peaceful race. It's just that we are being persecuted all the time.
Remember you had mentioned about this fear as being a Jewish woman that you've lived with for a lot of your life. Do your daughters, when they were born, like a lot had happened, are they aware of this fear, or is this something they...
Not really.
No?
Not to the, positively, not to the degree that the parents
Yeah.
feel, but they are confronted with being Jewish. So to their degree, they know. I have a son-in-law who lives in Ottawa, Stephen Victor,
Okay.
who is into everything possible to make this a better world. It can be Israel, it can be the Jewish community. He's on the Heart Institute. He's someone important, and with the government, he's recognized for doing so much good. So it's not that the Jewish people aren't involved in trying and doing, but they have to be accepted in many cases. Now they are, but it's just going in that direction. And it's sad for me to have to say that it took September the 11th for people to think that way and behave that way.
So you think September 11th really changed the way?
Absolutely did.
Really?
Absolutely did. The whole world. Look at the people, even in the government in the United States, with the what do you call the two of them, the conservatives and the
Republicans.
Yeah. Even
Democrats.
the two of them, the Democrats. Even the two of them decided that
Unite together.
and do what's good for the country, for the world.
Yeah.
That in itself is a point, isn't it?
Speaking about disaster, September 11th, I wanted to ask you about World War II, the Holocaust. I know you lived in Ottawa, and you had your first daughter in 1939 when the war began. What is your... What did you learn from the Holocaust when you found out about it?
My reaction.
What was your reaction? Yes.
All I can say is more of the same. Shall we wait until Wednesday?
Yeah, I'll just pause it for a second.
Are you questioning that?
Yeah.
What is your question?
So, when the Holocaust did occur, when you heard about it, what was your reaction as a Jewish woman living in Ottawa?
It was just more, but much more of the same, what's happening to the Jewish people. And the thing that was so disturbing, who was the president of the United States at the time?
Roosevelt?
Roosevelt, yeah.
Yeah.
We felt he was a Jewish friend of the Jews. But it's not that he was an enemy, but he was not a friend. And there were times, even to admit some of the Jewish people, would you believe it, that they had, because we were Jewish, we had a ratio, how many are allowed. And then later on, when through the government, somebody had to write a thesis in the university, and it had to do about the Jewish people being admitted. Forgetting words to use. And so when they approached the person who was responsible for the numbers admitted, do you know what his answer was? None is too many.
Oh,
Do you know that? Have you heard about that book?
I know. I think actually our Prime Minister, Mackenzie King,
I don't think it was him.
it wasn't him, because I know he had
During
said
his time, maybe.
a quote similar to that
Even none
no
is too many.
no Jewish people are too
Yeah.
many, or whatever, something along those
None
lines.
is too many, meaning
Yeah.
absolutely we don't want them. Now, I'd like to know, what is there about Jewish people that they're not allowed to be saved? What was there? Can you say it was religion? What else could it be except power? That people wanted to possess power and control the ground.
But why do you think that the Jewish community was attacked?
Because
In
we
particular.
were Jewish. Only because we're Jewish.
But what does that mean to, like, the perspective from someone saying that, let's say, no Jewish people,
Are allowed.
are allowed?
Mhm.
Why do people tend to target Jewish people? Is it because they live in a community? You know?
No, nothing, no. Only because they were born Jewish.
So
Only because
it's
they were born
this
Jewish.
predisposed already in their head.
Exactly.
And
There's that hatred. And,
so they were just taught this hatred before they were
through
even...
the years. Listen, when my daughter was 3 or 4 years old and was playing with a little girl who wasn't Jewish, and she came in crying, and I said, it's trouble. She says, Beverly said she hates me because I'm Jewish.
Oh,
So
wow.
even at that time, I said, this hatred starts at the cradle. Why would parents tell a child that Jewish is bad?
How did you explain that to your children?
Well, you just try to say that you're not a bad child. You go back to her and explaining that people are like that, defending the others. See, I have a very bad habit. I call it bad. The only people that I find I want to help and interest is somebody who needs the help, who's depressed, or who's lonely, or somebody isn't good to them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody who can take care of themselves, it doesn't even appeal to me. So I'm trying to understand myself. So as a result, my feeling is to elderly, really aged people who I find are really neglected by families. And it's not that it's wrong. That is how life is. You're important as long as you're useful. But the minute you're not, look at
Continue where we left off.
I think I left off at the point where I said that with the Chinese people, when a person, a female, gets to an age where she's really quite elderly and not useful anymore, they send her out, if you call it, to pasture, to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to me, it brings to mind that that's exactly what happens to all of us. As long as we are active and helpful, we're still recognized as being there. And it's not, I keep repeating it, it's not that it's wrong. It's the way human nature works.
Is that why you've been so active throughout all these years? Is one of the motivations?
I've only been active because the satisfaction I get being active. It's only in recent time, really the last couple of years, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm trying to understand myself, to know myself. I often feel like I'm two people, one person interviewing the other one, and say, hey, you did do that. One of the things that I find myself doing is writing notes to people or giving them a call when they've accomplished something or done something nice. And so I can go back with that kind of thing. So many years ago, I think I was in my 30s, when I wrote to a cousin of mine who lost a son in an accident. And even at the time when she was dying, she said to me, I'll never forget the note that you sent me, because it was a comfort to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's got to be, trying to understand myself, it's got to be that I was born that way, that's me. We all have certain attributes.
Different gifts, yeah.
The gifts. And that's strictly. So I'm thankful and I'm blessed, but it's not anything that I worked at or tried to be that I'm not. So I can tell you, if I can tell it quickly. When somebody dies, they sit 7 days. They call it Shiva.
Okay.
Shiva means 7. And there was a very Orthodox rabbi at one of the places where I was at. And so he told us in the conversation that when a child is born, God implants a soul into the unborn child. So when he said that, sometimes I come out with without even thinking. My reaction was, hey, I got a good one, didn't I? Later I realized that I was boasting or bragging about myself. But it's this is exactly what I must have believed. Another thing, I used to go to classes, to a rabbi's class,
Okay.
and there was a break in the class when everybody went out for coffee and I was left sitting with him. And I was saying to him how little I know about religion because my life was so full with working, children, organizations, business, and that we didn't have time to study or to listen to. So I said, I feel I know nothing. And everything I learned here is like it's happened for the first time. And then I found myself saying to him, you know what? I think what I only have out of life is I have common sense and heart. And then I thought, what am I saying again? Because this was many years later. But actually what I'm saying to you is trying to understand myself and know myself. I feel like I'm two people today checking back on that person who lived all these years. And this is what I've come up with. And as a result, there's only one answer for it. I was blessed to be born.
Wow.
Quite a speech, eh?
Well, I find it kind of neat that you consider yourself blessed, even though what's happened to you throughout your life.
Well, that's life. That's other people who are doing the things. It's not. Because at the same time, I'm telling you that I feel because of the way I am satisfied that I took such good care of my mother. I don't feel that I neglected her.
Yeah.
So that's extremely important to me because I know we are all going to die. And it's a question of how you live, what you do while you live.
Okay, well, I want to ask you now, we did talk about this a bit earlier. You consider yourself a conservative, Orthodox Jew,
Yeah.
but a modern Orthodox Jew. What would your comment be on explaining a modern Orthodox Jew?
Adhering still to the principles of religion, of being Jewish, but also I have to admit, understanding that there are advanced times from the laws that were made. Do you know that we weren't even allowed to light a fire, no matter how cold you were, because it took wood and work to do it.
Would this be on the Sabbath?
On the Sabbath,
Okay.
because Sabbath, yeah. So you have to call in a non-Jewish person to do it for you. Even to remove the candles that you light for the Sabbath, you are not allowed to touch it. Well, all these things, I have to think that way, that there's advancement in the world, that if it's for health reasons, the results are improved today for health reasons, and it's for good living. So I feel a little guilty that I'm accepting.
Yeah, just pause that for a second.
I don't know where I was at.
Well, we're talking about you're explaining what it was to be a
Oh yes, to be
modern
yeah.
Orthodox.
So I feel a little bit guilty that because I have to believe and I'm supposed to believe that to follow to the letter of the law, but at the same time I do understand, and as I keep repeating, I feel a little guilty about it, but I do understand that everything is for the improvement of health and religion and humanity.
So it's a fine line between modernity and the Orthodox, and try to find some common ground.
Exactly. You're
Wow.
right. You're putting it well.
I'd like to talk to you now about your contributions to the Jewish community. And I know you won the Gilbert Greenberg Award. Even got Ministry of Citizenship Volunteer Service Award
Oh, they told
from the
you
province.
that.
Actually, I got that from an article. But
What else did it tell you so? Because I really forget.
well, you were a long-standing member of National Council of Jewish Women,
Yeah, that's all
And-
I'm doing.
Do you remember, what I want to ask is, do you remember when was the first time you actually served the Jewish community in a volunteer position like this?
Well, really, the first one was with the, what did we call it, the Ottawa Jewish, it's the Hillel Academy now.
Okay.
Hillel Academy,
Yeah.
which was starting a Jewish school, a school for Jewish children.
And is that what Hillel is today on Broadview?
That's exactly the one.
Okay. And you and, 9 other couples?
Yeah, we were 10 couples.
Okay. How old? Do you remember how old you were when you decided to?
I have to remember because Gail is now 56. She's born in 1949. How old would you be today?
She was born in 1949.
I don't know, just meant 43. I'm talking about.
Oh, Gail, 1943.
Yeah.
And today's 2002. So that would be 57, 59, I guess.
No, maybe
58.
let's say it's 58.
Okay.
And say she was 6 years old.
Okay.
So 6 years old from 58 to, I'm trying to figure out the year.
So that would be 1949. I guess when Adele was born, maybe?
Yeah, they're 6 years apart. You're smart. So when we started this school, would have been 1948, let's say.
48. And what gave you the desire to start a school like this?
It wasn't that I was so smart. I was approached by someone who wanted to start the school and said, would you be interested? And for sure,
Mm-hmm.
we grabbed at the opportunity. So we tried to have little fundraising functions, like we'd have a little tea at the house, and we'd make our own sandwiches and that, and people would come and give a contribution. That didn't go very far, but at the time they had started something in Ottawa called the Bob a year, which is the government of the Jewish community. So of course there were maybe 3 or 4 people who had the finances, the means to control, and they were very capable, of course, too. So we approached them and asked them to support the school.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was, when you can raise enough money, because it's going to take a lot of money, when you can do it, we'll help you, but we cannot do it for you. I remember being bold enough, because I keep telling you how inhibited I am. I was bold enough to call the most important person. This was one of my greatest achievements, and I said, I don't want to mention the name. I said to him, if you had grandchildren who needed the Jewish education, you would do something fast about it. Today, I am in touch with his son, and I mentioned that to him. I said, do you know that I once called your dad, da-da-da-da? He said, do you know what? My dad always regretted that he didn't listen to me. So that was really, when I can think back, what I did that other people benefit as well as myself. The school was the first thing.
Wow.
So then, to go from the school, I ended up with the old age home. It's like the beginning of time to the end of time.
The old age home, that is right beside Hillel today?
Yeah, right presently, yeah. It's called the Hillel home. What do you call it? Oh, dear. Hillel Lodge.
Hillel Lodge,
Yeah.
okay. So first you took care of the school.
Yeah, the school.
And then you started looking after the older people of the
No, but
community.
it wasn't right after. In between, we built a new synagogue.
Okay.
And
What's the name of the synagogue?
Beth Shalom.
Beth?
B-E-T-H. Shalom, S-H-A-L-O-M. Beth Shalom, and it's on Chapel Street.
Okay.
So when they were going to build it, because we belonged to another synagogue, it was necessary to build this one. I was interested not only through a child, but I have a picture where she turns a sob, is that what you call it?
turns to what, sorry?
The sod, S-O-D.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Soil?
The soil, yeah. You know,
Like a piece of grass or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
so with a little shovel,
Yeah.
She wasn't the only one, there were 3 other children. But for me, it's even then, I was interested enough that my child was chosen to do it, do you understand? And other than that, Jewish people, I as well as everybody in the community, always gave contributions for everything, whether it was camp or school or it didn't matter what. So we always, never refused to support whatever came our way, whatever was necessary. But it's, I ended up, I don't know if the question is to follow, but I ended up being on 3 organizations so long that presently they call me, instead of being a member, I'm there too long to be allowed to vote, but I'm allowed to sit in and express myself.
Oh, okay.
So I'm...
like a consultant, maybe?
Yeah, there's another word. I think it's not a consultant, really. Anyway, it's a very special position. It may come to me before the interview's over. So that the 3 organizations are Hilla Lodge,
Okay.
and
Hillel Academy, or would you consider that?
the Hilla Academy. No, I'm not on it anymore. No, they're just the Hilla Lodge. And
B'nai
ridiculous.
B'rith Women? Is
Oh, no,
that
that's
sound?
way back.
Okay.
They don't even have that organization
Okay.
anymore.
How about the Adath Yeshurun Synagogue? I'm not
Yeah.
sure. You were an
Yeah.
executive for a while?
No, but this is the Beth Shalom. It shouldn't have been that synagogue. I was with the Beth Shalom synagogue. Well, there was different organizations. That's what it is. And I'm on the Historical Society as one. And I'm on 3. What's with me?
Hillel Lodge,
Yeah, Hillel Lodge and Historical.
Historical.
And I keep being called to meetings and forget.
National Council of Jewish Women?
Do you have other names there? I'm really falling asleep.
Sorry. This must be my
I'm
questions.
sorry.
They're
No,
boring
no, you're very interesting. I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
you. Okay, well, what's your fondest memory from the Beth Shalom on Chapel Street, that synagogue? Are you still a member there today?
Oh,
or?
yeah. Oh, I'm very
really?
active there. Very active. I've done things there that I really don't want to... It's really ridiculous for me because to admit to some of the things that unappreciated. Because, I've done them just because it's a way of life. This is what I had to do.
So you don't want to sound like you're bragging here.
That's exactly
So-
what I'm trying to tell you.
No, you know what I'm going to say? For interview purposes, Mrs. Steinman here is not bragging. She's answering a question that I'm asking.
Okay,
There you
that
go.
helps. I'll give you an example. In the Jewish religion, you have to have 10 men to pray,
Yeah.
and that's twice a day. And the women are supposed to bring up the children and be in the kitchen, that kind of thing. As it says in the Bible, the man says, "Thank God for making me a man," and it's for the female, for whatever you saw fit. Okay. I mean, we don't take it, we take it literally. So, one of the boys was telling me that they're short of the 10 men every time they have to pray twice a day. So I said, give me the list. And it's a whole list of the synagogue. I can't tell you how many hundreds we have. And I got on the phone, and I called every man, and I asked them to give me 1 day a month to attend to the services, so they'll have their 10. And I indicated to them, and I got in writing what day it is they're responsible. And if you cannot attend, call a friend and make sure you're represented. Well, now they call it the Thelma Minions. It's called a minion,
Thelma what, sorry?
Minion. M-I-N-Y-A-N. Yeah. It's a prayer.
Minyan. Oh, A.M.
Yeah. So
you basically, you organized all these men to show up.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and the synagogue is so pleased about that. The part that I didn't want to tell you is I get all kinds of titles. The Queen of Beth Shalom, and I was away just now and I spoke to someone I'm going to synagogue with on Saturday. She says, the rabbi is going to make a big announcement that you're back. I said, don't be ridiculous. Why? Other people go on that. And it's because that's the way I am at the synagogue. It's not the only thing that I do, like to visit the sick. I've organized that we should send someone, if I can't go, to meet them.
At the Hillel Lodge?
No, at the synagogue.
Oh, at the synagogue.
Through the synagogue.
Okay.
But something that's important to me is, we have a cantor in the synagogue. He's the one that sings the prayers.
Okay.
He's not the rabbi, he's the cantor. So I used to go with my brother to Central Park Lodge, and because he went away for the winter, and we have a new cantor here, the last 4 years, I'm the only volunteer who has been going with him, first to Central Park Lodge on Fridays before the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And we have a service. He gives them a little sermon. We make the blessings on the bread and the wine, and we pray together a little bit. Since someone else has taken over at Central Park Lodge, every second Friday we go to Rito Place, and I'm still the only volunteer. As a matter of fact, like through the synagogue and through this, I have organized that we have at the holidays, the same time as Christmas is Hanukkah, that the Rito Place has brought in kosher refreshments that time, and we bring in music, and we have all the Jewish guests and their families.
Okay.
So I'm just giving you an inkling the kind of volunteer I am. And it's the most natural thing, Andrew, for me to be doing these things, because they have to be done, and I do them.
Yeah.
And so I adore people. I really respect and love people who are doers. If you want to do something, do it. Don't think about it and don't talk about it. Do it.
Okay. That's a message a lot of people today could use, including some of my friends. But I wanted to ask you actually about Beth Shalom. It's an Orthodox synagogue.
Yeah.
Are the men and women divided?
They are presently, but that's a big struggle. In order for it to survive, we have members, believe me, I understand them. They feel if we'll make it conservative, where we can sit together, because in the Jewish religion, the reason we're separated, the women are supposed to be upstairs with a curtain that the men cannot see. They should not, get ideas to think other than religion.
Okay.
So now we have it on one floor, and we have, they call it a machitza. It's a little gate that covers the knees of the females and the men.
Okay.
But they can still see each other, not like with the curtain, which is the real Orthodox religion.
That totally segregated them.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of slowly changing.
But it's built that way, and that is the problem today. We have more members, I don't know about numbers, we have members who want to convert it or change it to conservative, not Orthodox anymore.
Okay.
And our rabbi, who's very Orthodox, is fighting it. And then there's the problem of if they let this rabbi go and it's a problem to get a rabbi because we're an aged congregation. And who's going to take a chance that they'll get a job in Ottawa if they have to bring him in to work for us, that it'll be consistent, that he can stay on.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of problems. This is where we're at the stage. And so we're scheduled. There is somebody in Ottawa, and I want to mention her, Ruth Freeman. She's A.J. Freeman's wife. Do you know her?
Ruth Freeman. Does he live on Summerwalk?
Freeman. Where?
Summer walk in Center Point. I did
don't
some
think so.
landscape. Does he have a mustache, Mr. Freeman? Okay.
No, his grandfather was A.J. Freeman's store, the Freeman store,
Okay.
that the Bay now owns. So, and she is from Israel, born in Israel, married to A.J., they call his name, Archibald. And she took an interest to save the synagogue. And she's in a position because that's her kind of work, through construction and that. And she has really, really saved it so far for us, because the school and the synagogue were joined together. There was one building, and she was able to rent out the school part, which pays for renovations of the synagogue presently. But she's really an angel. I mean, I don't know how others feel about her. To me, she has saved the synagogue. But we're not at the point yet where it's saved, because now we need members, and we also have to have a campaign to raise money to continue. So that's our sad story.
In terms when you're talking about let's say when you guys used to be totally segregated, men and women, and then with the curtain or whatever, and now that's not there anymore. Is this part of the struggle with modernity? Would you say that, like, some of the members want to be conservative? And some of the congregation wants to be conservative now? Most of the congregation now wants to be conservative.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with struggling with modernity and how times have changed? That you would say that would be the major factor then?
Yeah, the
modernity?
major factor, and I'll take it a step further. In Israel, part of the trouble is also because of religion. Are very, very orthodox, are causing a lot of heartache because they're not bending enough.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying to you that I have to accept the changes and the advancements today, and they're not. They're sticking to the word of the Torah, and so that is wrong as well, from my point of view.
Why is the first 5 books are the Word of God, like not through told to Moses, but they're supposed to be the words of God.
The Ten Commandments.
Orthodox people, they really abide by these laws. How can, let's say, Reformed or even conservative congregations, they don't abide to these laws probably as strictly as...
I don't know.
So, what is their reasoning, kind of how they can kind of embrace modernity and maybe not adhere to all these strict rules and still claim to be a Jewish person? Yes.
My reaction to your question is the easy way out.
Easy way out.
It's comfortable. It's easy. It's fun. It's just great.
It's kind of like Christianity here. Like Christianity to us is it's just you have a few beliefs, but it's not really a behavior. You don't have to abide by eating certain foods or
But you had the land that you had to give up on.
Yeah, well, that's not that
strict.
Yeah, it's more orthodoxy instead of orthopraxy, I guess. It's more correct belief instead of correct behavior or practice.
Yeah, but you're comparing it to our orthodox, to conservative and reform.
Yeah.
And to me, it's much the same.
Okay, well, I wouldn't mind talking about now. What struck me here is this Ministry of Citizenship Volunteer Service Award, and it was appointed from...
Yeah, but that was another thing. That was through, I think, Ella Lodge. It was just that at the time they gave every organization or church or synagogue the privilege of suggesting someone. And so someone suggested me.
Okay.
I started at the beginning to tell you, everything depends on if somebody will suggest the person. Like in the Citizen today, every now and again you get a half page with a picture of someone who deserves to be written about. But someone suggested them.
They have to be nominated.
There are hundreds of others who are not.
So you were nominated for this award.
Oh, yeah. But that, you know, it was no big deal.
So
It was kind of nice. It was a compliment, but
and who
there was somebody-
who nominated you for this award? Like what?
It had to be someone on the executive.
Okay.
Which
And it was
is
for your work with Hillel Lodge, so that's.
Yeah, at Hilla Lodge at the time. Because I did certain things at Hilla Lodge that were wrong. Like I bought a bunch of cards and I invited people to come to a luncheon and ask them to become members. It was wrong. I had to do that through the executive. I had no business to do it on my own. But I was always doing things like that,
Yeah.
supposedly for the good. That's why I'm saying to you, there was much I didn't know and it was wrong. But there was no one to teach me, to correct me.
It's a learning experience, I guess.
Yeah. However, it wasn't the right way to go.
Well, how about we talked about the Gilbert Greenberg Award then?
Oh, that was a shocker. I have to tell you that when the person called to tell me that I was chosen, of course I was startled. Who, me?
How did you find out? Were you just sitting at home and someone
I
called
was
you?
at home on the telephone. It was the president of this VADA year that I'm telling you is like the government of our community. There's another word for it. And so he called me and said, Thelma, how are you? Da-da-da-da. He said, you know, we had a meeting and you were the one chosen to receive the award, the Greenberg Award. So I said, oh my God, me? And the reaction was, well, gee, that's interesting, but let me think about it. So when they had that night, you know, when I was introduced and the synagogue was filled with people, he mentioned that. He says, when I told her, she said, let me think about it. And he said, what I said to her was, what is it when the scientists are all rewarded? Scientists get the...
the Nobel Prize?
He says it's a Nobel Prize gift. You don't decide on it. You just receive it.
You have to receive.
So I'm telling you that because I never thought myself being in that class with the people who did so much good in their way. It was, for me, it was strictly a way of life that I'm not apologizing for it. I'm thankful if anything good came of it. But it's not because...
Well, what was there when they gave you this award? You know, this is a prestigious award, and you don't hand it out to anybody. What was their reasoning of choosing you? Because I'm sure you said, well, your reaction was like, well, I'll get back to you. You know, there's probably other people out there. Why?
The reason really was, I thought partly of my age, which, you know, I was in the 80s by then, but also there wasn't an organization that I wasn't involved with, besides like there's an ORT organization, or Hadassah, or way back it was B'nai B'rith. There was a time in my life when I was very young, the children, like I was in my early 30s, to me that's a long time ago, of course, when I said yes to 5 organizations that I'd be helping and working on. I was going to the stores continually to help my husband. I was bringing up 3 children, and I had responsibilities, and I used to run to classes to learn about whether they were Jewish or about how to bring up the children. I had a very full life. Got to a point that one time before organizations, 2 of them clicked at the same time, that I had to do something, a job for them. It was impossible to do the 2 the same day, same time. It was only then that I realized, and only by looking back, that I was that involved. So even that, to me, it was like everybody was doing what I was doing. I was doing anything that's different. Some of the nice things, as I'm talking to you, pop in my head that I really don't know to explain, to understand myself, that my brother who went to Queen's University of Kingston. And he'd come back on vacation time whenever there was a break. And one of the times, he kids about it now, but what he said to me, he said, Thelma, when I come back to Ottawa, it's so important to me to spend time with you because, listen to this, it's like it's like a man coming back to his mistress. Can you imagine? And I reminded him, I said, Albert, you did say it. He said, it's only because if I needed to talk myself out or, to be understood, that I felt that I could come to you. So, and just looking back, honestly, I'm telling you, Andrew, I'm talking about someone else because I can't understand that it was me who was like that because there were so many people who cared. I had 4 friends who died that were so special. But when I look around me, and all the years, I used to feel so privileged to have them as a friend. And the people around me don't have one the kind of friend that I have. So the only thing I can understand it is if I show them my love and how I care, that I get the response. And giving my love is something that it's just natural. I love the person, regardless of what they're like.
Unconditional love.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I want to ask you, before you just said you realized how busy you were when you were committed to organizations at the same time. What were those organizations that you had that conflict with?
One of them was the synagogue.
And this is Beth Shalom.
At the time, it was not Beth Shalom. It was King Street, the synagogue in King Street. So I think it was a good. You mentioned the name. I think that's it. And so the synagogue was one. I was in Hadassah, and I was an Ort. I was also one of the charter members in Ort. And we were so busy having rummage sales and raising money and all that. Hadassah and Ort, and the synagogue, and of course Hillel Lodge at the time. Hillel Academy, not Hillel Lodge.
This academy was before the lodge.
The school. Yeah. Or don't even mention the lodge because that came much later. I can't remember. I know that there was hardly an organization that asked me to be on board that I refused. And isn't that just ridiculous that I have these 3 that Jewish Family Services.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah, that, and I'm
That's
so
an important
involved
one.
with them.
Jewish Family Services.
Right. So
You're still involved with Jewish families?
Oh, yes. I'm one of the... I have even gone so far to raise money for them on the QT without permission. Because, so when they announce it, they say anonymous,
Yeah.
that. Because, see, wherever there's a need, I'm there.
Just happen to show up.
Yeah, I just do something. I don't even go there. I do this from here.
So Jewish Family Services,
What I do for them is that I was asked, and up until now I've been getting volunteers for them to visit people who are shut in or in hospitals, nursing homes.
So it's to help the
to
sick.
help the needed.
Okay.
Yeah, and even Meals on Wheels to get people to deliver Meals on Wheels. And the reason for that is it's not because I'm different and great. It's because I've lived in the community long enough, and I've been doing that kind of thing, that I have an idea who to ask. I know people.
You have the connections.
That's the word. I have the connections, and the time's moving there, right?
Yeah, there's a couple important questions I want to ask before we run out of time. Back to earlier, you'd mentioned Historical Society?
Mhm.
you were part of? What?
Yeah,
what,
on the board.
You were just on the board? What did the Historical Society do? Is it just...
That's the one that you're writing for, the archives.
Oh, the arc. Okay, this
That's the
is...
one.
Okay, that's
This is
what...
it.
Oh, I knew the connection here. I just...
Yeah. This is it.
Okay, great.
So it's a historical, Jewish Family Services.
And how...
And Hillel Lodge goes next.
How important do you think this is, especially what we're doing right now, to, be able to tell your story, what you've been through, what you've done for the community, your life? How important do you think that is to the community and the survival of the community and the continuity of the community?
Actually, I don't have a sensible answer except for the satisfaction it's given me to do it, and I know it's not the right way to go. And the only thing I can add to it, any benefit from what I have said, is if others will do the same. That's it. No other reason. For sure, I am not trying to tell you that I'm great, because I'm not.
But more so, you're leading by example, by doing things.
Yeah, hopefully, like an answer to your question, hopefully that it's by example that it's continued.
Is there any other memory you'd like to share?
A million of them. I
I
don't
know.
know which one.
Bad question. Well, I think we're running out of time here, so
Mhm.
just obviously, like you said, there's lots of memories, but maybe we'll just look at the bigger picture right now. And when you look back at your life, is there
No regrets.
no regrets in life?
No regrets at all, because I am blessed with understanding the other point of view. Even if it's something that's bad, even to recognize a terrorist or terrorist, the fact that I can recognize it and know it, I'm just not angry and, hurt about the world. Of course I'm hurt, but it's just to know,
Understanding
to
others'
understand.
perspectives.
Exactly. Thanks for helping me out.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because that's probably a lot of the reasons why Jewish people have been persecuted, because people haven't looked at their perspective. And,
Their own, you mean?
Well,
you mean other people look
other
at their
people,
own?
exactly. Like I remember I did a little project on Jewish communities in the Middle Ages in Christian Europe, and it was horrible. A lot of Jewish people would be, persecuted just for living in a visible Jewish community. And, people couldn't understand why people would live in these communities and, kind of look down on them, because, they thought something was wrong, because these people lived in communities, in hordes or whatever, And it's too bad, because back then they wouldn't take the perspective of the Jewish people, and what they were doing and their way of life and their behavior.
Exactly.
So, it's kind of neat of you to say that, understanding other people's perspectives is important.
It is. But they have to understand themselves why they behave the way they do.
Do you believe in forgiveness?
Definitely.
Yes?
Definitely. The old story, not to forget, but I do forget. Oh, I do. See, my attitude about that is, when we look back at anybody's life, everybody has done something, I don't want to use the word to the extent ashamed of, or regret it, that they behaved or did or said what they did. But that was then. And I can understand it, because nobody's perfect, and we all have faults like that at a certain time. But if we work at it to understand it and to improve, and to improve on it, then they're to be accepted and forgiven, and go with the today But today they're not like that, and they're not doing that kind of thing.
So
Is
at
that an
times,
answer?
yeah, no, that's fair enough. So, like for example, we'll mention the Holocaust. A lot of evil went on then, a lot of atrocities. But you've forgiven the people.
I have forgiven the people, and I'm not blaming the children.
And you're not blaming today's generation
I am
for
not.
what
And
they're.
this makes me so angry that people do, because when I reached a point and I was married and got help, I have to tell you, not only I, but my family, we always had German help. I had help living in because I was going to work, and it was a German person always. And if someone came to clean when I needed it, it was German. And an architect, someone to improve even this apartment, was a German person. Because I never blamed the people who were to be blamed. I mean, unblamed. Only to blame the parents.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that the sins of the fathers should go to the children.
Okay, so kind of a fresh start almost.
Yeah, but it's not fair. It's not fair to blame it. Give each one a chance to be who and what they are.
Now,
So for the Holocaust, and to complete that thought, for the Holocaust, of course, I can't even use the word blame. They were so cruel to follow orders. Where was their own goodness in them not to follow that kind of orders? However, but at the same time, I understand them from their point of view that they felt they were doing what had to be done.
or they were told that was the right thing to do.
Exactly.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. So they were not very, I don't want to use the word stupid, but not intelligent or knowledgeable enough not to be that way, but never for a minute. And now today, and I don't know a great deal about it, but Germany is trying to stand up and be correct. I don't know if ever we won't have the terrorists, the with the Holocaust survivors, not survivors, the people who are still insisting to do away with the Jewish people.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of that is in the minority now. Don't
So
you?
I tend to think so.
Yeah.
It's not
It's not the majority
not accepted
anymore.
norm. Yeah.
It's not accepted the way it was.
Yeah. So you do believe in forgiveness. I've heard, who was it? Anyways, I went to this class, or someone said God is dead, especially after the Holocaust. He said God is dead. That was his reaction.
Yeah, I know.
What's your comment on that?
Because people don't believe in God. See, with the Christians, they have a symbol that represents God. Jesus or Mary. And we don't have. And so, to my thinking, the big problem is, show me what I'm supposed to believe in. Show me some sign. Now, in our religion, we are to believe it without seeing and knowing.
Faith.
Believing in the faith. Now, that makes it difficult for a human being.
It does.
I think so.
Yeah.
More than difficult. However, from what the little that I do know, God gives us not the privilege, but the good and the bad in us, and we're supposed to bring out the good. And so that is to prove, part of it is believing in God. I walked out of the hospital one day with a friend of mine, and she said, "Isn't that terrible? What has she ever done to deserve to be that sick?" And without thinking, if this is what gets to me, how come I would think that way? I said to her, "Just a minute. We have 10 commandments. Do we honor all the commandments? If this is what God wants from us, and we're not, doing it,
2:30 on January 23rd. I'm interviewing Mrs. Thelma Steinman. My first question is, where were you born? Whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Russia, and it's called Kiev, really in a little town called Mankivka, which is not important. There were only 80 Jewish families there, and that's where I was born.
Whereabouts in Russia are we?
That's really not important. It just, the capital city was Kiev.
Okay.
And more than that, I really don't know.
And when did you